Hi there, this is the Conversations with Humanity podcast. I'm your host, Mark Philpott. Hello everyone, it's great to be back here at Conversations with Humanity, and if you haven't listened to the show before, this is when I get behind the microphone and I have a chat to somebody around the world about whatever's going on in their life, in my life, in the world's life. That's right, there is no script to this show. If you haven't checked out the previous episodes, head on over to the website at humaneity, humanity.com. You'll find all of the previous episodes there for you to listen to. There's some very interesting conversations, even if you want to hear two men crying. Yes, that's even happened on the show as well. Now then, on to today's show. I've got two people joining me today. Yes, it's a couple, a wonderful couple indeed. And we're going to have a good old chat about, well, we don't know, so let's go and find out. Let's meet them now. Sophie and Ewan, welcome to the show, Conversations with Humanity.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mark. My word, it's lovely to be here.
It's great to have
you once again.
It's great to have you both back, and you guys were stars on the travel show, by the way. We've got some extremely strong download numbers from people listening to you talking about Antarctica and all those other wonderful things that you've done. But we're not allowed to talk about Antarctica today, is that right?
Well, it was a suggestion that maybe we steer away from it.
No, we move on to other things.
Well, there's so much to talk about, isn't there?
There's more to life than Antarctica.
There is more to life than Antarctica, yeah.
And you two really interest me because there are few couples in the world that I would interact with where I feel as though the couple complement each other as much as you two complement each other. So it's always a pleasure of mine to have a conversation with you two. So it was like really a absolute at the top of one of my lists to get you on the show and have a real deep conversation with you both today.
Oh, thanks, Mark. That's lovely to hear. We actually had a comment a few days ago from a close friend commenting on our relationship and using it as a model for building
their own relationship.
Their relationship. So yeah, that was pleasing to hear.
So have you decided to start a business around relationships and helping people with their relationships?
That's one of the things we haven't started a business on, where we have many new entrepreneurial startups and side hustles, but relationship development is not one of them yet.
But it might be now.
I've always had a motto though, never say never.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's always yet. Yeah. The
doors will open when you least expect them, that's for sure.
Exactly, and yes, that's proving to be quite the thing, right in this period of time.
Cool. So you two are in Tasmania, yeah, in Australia.
We are. Yep. We found ourselves, I guess, for want of anything better, just landed here in the whole COVID startup, and yeah, it's kind of.
It's really been a great place to land. Yeah.
It has.
I was going to say, Tasmania, I haven't spent, I've been there a number of times, but I haven't really had a good look around the place. It's pretty much, I'm a Kiwi, as you know, and a lot of similarities are made between New Zealand and Tasmania, and I get it when I go there, but what's it really like?
Yeah, well, it's kind of pretty quiet, I guess, at the moment, like many places around the world without any tourists around. But it is winter anyway, and so things would normally be a little quieter. It's fabulous. It's been nice. It's been a few years really since we've
had a good amount of time here.
Yeah, had a reasonable time in Tasmania.
So why are you there? Why are you in Tasmania? Why did you decide to go back there?
Well, it was a bit of a off-the-cuff decision, really.
No, I was going to say it almost wasn't a decision. Well, of course it was a decision, but it almost wasn't. It was very hasty. We were working on a ship at the time, not in Antarctica, luckily, because that wouldn't have been an ideal place, like many of our colleagues. So we were on a ship actually in Australian waters for the first time we took this contract, and which was very lucky, really. And when things started heating up, our boss operations manager contacted us and said, well, the trip is going to be cancelled. Where would you like to disembark to? So we had about 12 hours to give her this decision, and because we were in Australia, that made sense. Let's just get to Tassie and see what goes from there.
Have you got roots in Tasmania?
Yeah, my family's here. I grew up here, and so it's nice to be back, kind of in that homeland where I grew up and reconnecting with people. Yeah.
So you and Sophie, no doubt, has taken you to the wonderful land of the long white cloud. So how do you compare the two?
There are some similarities. I think it's very easy for people to paint this kind of picture of similarities between places around the world. We hear it all the time as we travel around the place.
I get sucked into it, but I don't like to do it. I don't like to say, oh, this is like New Zealand, or this is
and
like...
people do compare Tasmania to New Zealand, particularly South Island. And whilst there are, some similarities, there's some huge differences as well. I think the main similarity would be just the massive amounts of wilderness that are prevalent in both locations. But
I think friendly locals too.
Almost I think that's about the end of it, to be honest. Yeah.
It's quite interesting, that whole comparison thing that we do as humans, isn't it? Like saying it's like this and it's like that. I think maybe in the travel sense, people are, when you talk to somebody and you're trying to paint a picture of what a place is like that someone hasn't been to, it's probably easier just to say, oh, it's like such and such, right? And people can then make their own impression but when you get there, often it's very different than the place they actually said that it was like.
Especially when you start to dig a little bit deeper in a place and come to understand it and appreciate it at a deeper level, you realise there's actually quite a lot of difference. Yeah.
And I think there's just huge value for taking something for what it is rather than always comparing it. Like, this is society that we live in. There's just so much comparison, and it drives all sorts of negative things. So just take it for what it is. Take the great things that you love about it and the things that you hate about it, whatever. It's what it is. It's like nothing else.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was talking to a guest this morning on the business show I was doing, and he was talking about how this period in time, because we've got so much more time on our hands to digest information, we've got so much information coming to us about what's going on in the world, there's maybe too much time on our hands to overanalyze these things rather than just getting on with life, right?
Yeah,
well, that's where we're not in that basket. We're in the category of I just don't know where the days go and the minutes and the hours.
We've got so much going on.
Fly by, and yeah, we've still got 1,003 things to do on a to-do list.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, that sounds good. So let's start working through your to-do list. So what for the sake of our conversation today, we can talk about anything. So is there anything that's kind of topical in your life at the moment that you want to throw out there and that we can dive into?
Yeah. Well, what's topical at the moment for us is
life in general.
I guess, it's exactly that. Is life. We come from a background as a couple of working really hard over a good many years of really designing our life and working out ways to make that design happen. And it takes effort. It takes a lot of effort, not just to the little steps along the way, but to actually plan it and change the plan and keep tweaking. Reassessing, and COVID's been a massive period of that for us, actually, of reassessing. We do it quite regularly, but it's been another go around the roundabout, so to speak, of reassessment for us, and accepting the changes that have been forced upon us by this global phenomena, I guess, possibly. And really just seeing what we can make of it, what the best outcome is that we can take from this opportunity, and so that's taken a lot of work. But
so
when
you talk about assessing things or reassessing things, do you have a process that you use as a couple to do that, and do you also do it independently?
I don't think it's such a structured or go-to process, other than just open communication, and we set time aside. I guess that might be a tool that we do, and we do. So we kind of block out time, set it aside, and sit down and just talk to each other. And we, as tragic as the COVID period has been, we've honestly really loved this opportunity and embraced it, we think, with arms wide open. And it's brought out a lot of good. And we sit down and we talk, what do we want in life, and what makes us happy, what makes us tick, what sort of legacy, in a sense, do we want to leave behind? And then, okay, well, that's all very nice to dream that, but how do we make that happen? And then as we go through it, we're like, gosh, this is really hard or scary, or things are changed, or actually, well, our mindset is different from it was last year. So let's reassess and reevaluate and keep checking in. What makes us happy? What do we want to do in life?
But we do have some tools, I guess. We have nutted out some what we call big picture goals.
Oh yeah, that's our tool.
Which
that's
kind
right.
of are exactly that. And then we've broken those down into some stepping stones. So what we would need to do along the way
to achieve our big picture goals,
to get to those goals. And that's I guess a formula that we keep coming back to and reassessing, like Sophie said.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that this COVID time has taught us so much about so many things in life, isn't it? For me, it's kind of given us that, I don't want to say wake up call, but I guess an announcement at a global level that things can literally change overnight.
Yep, absolutely.
And all dimensions of life can change overnight. Like, you take away travel, for instance, right, from so many people's lives. And again, I was talking to a friend the other day who's an airline pilot, and I was saying, gosh, how are you coping at the moment with, literally being able to fly one day and not the next? And that whole serene feeling that you get having your office in the sky, and having probably one of the best jobs in the world, sitting in a cockpit of an airline going across the world, right? And he said, yeah, it's been extremely difficult, really psychologically, because I've spent more time on the ground lately than I had in the last 15 years of my life, right?
Yeah, wow. What a change for him.
Yeah, and he said he's actually having a lot of physiological impact as a result of that. So he's having changes to his body because he's not up there in that radiation every day.
Wow. And
he's starting to recognize what flying such a continuous, and because he's a long haul pilot, he's doing long distances, right? So, and his body's getting knocked around, and he's saying, look, I'm reassessing everything. Like, I'm understanding now what I'm actually doing to my body. And I thought that was quite an interesting conversation.
That's very interesting, Mark. I think, excuse the pun, but I think it's bringing a lot of people back to earth in a sense, or maybe all of humanity, in the sense that I think we're starting to remember that what are the fundamental things we need for to sustain life. And I think we've well and truly forgotten it, largely across the globe. And I think this is kind of maybe
helping bring it back,
helping us remind humanity what it is that what do we need out of this thing called life, and what do we need from this planet to sustain ourselves.
I asked someone the other day, where's Greta Thunberg gone recently? Like,
I know.
Before all this happened, she was the only person that was in the front of the media every day, right? And where's global warming gone? Who's talking about that anymore at the moment?
Hopefully, right? She's still doing amazing things. Yeah.
Yeah. But it just shows, though. I guess I raised that satirically because I was thinking about the influence of the press, right? And the press is wanting to continually, focus us on the current pandemic situation, and a lot of it is about the dark side of that, rather than looking at all the many thousands, millions positive things that are going on in the world at the moment as a result of the pandemic. And I think it's great that we've been given this reset button in so many instances, and I'm not for one second negating the fact that people are dying because of this virus and people are having hardship. But at the same time, it's if someone sits down and reassesses their life because of this hardship and they come out stronger and better on the other side, it can only be a good thing, can't it?
Yeah,
Absolutely, and we all have that opportunity. Right now we all have it. It's whether people decide to take it. And like you say, you can, like the press, you can take one point of view and go down the dark side, or you can choose to consciously to go the other way.
Look at the bright side and look at the opportunity that comes.
Yeah, and I guess what I was saying is I like the fact that some people didn't have the choice about this. It was forced upon all of us because of the decisions that many governments have made to put us in lockdowns and give us this extra time and change the game up, right? People have been put in a position that they haven't been in, and I'm not saying that in a narcissistic way. I'm saying it in a way that it's a good thing for people to have that opportunity to say, hey, what is it all about? If I asked you both, what's the meaning of life to you two, what would you say to me?
What is the meaning of life?
To live it, to live it to the best you can, to have fun and maximize every opportunity. Meaning of life. Well, that's all I came up with off the top of my head, Mark.
So the word life, what does that in itself mean to you? Like when you say, to live it, or live what? What are you living? Like.
Yeah, it's an interesting. It's a funny question. Hey, what is life? When you peel it back to the raw animalistic nature of it, we're here to do one thing, really, like pretty much every other species on the planet. But I think as humans, we get we've been touched with this magic wand to have something more than that, if we so wish. And
do you think that's one of the problems that humanity has as a species, is that we don't really understand what the meaning of life is?
Possibly. It appears that way, that there's that it becomes more of a hamster wheel than the brain and conscious driven life decisions.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. Has something changed in the modern era of humanity, or we cast our minds back thousands of years, were people having these same ponderings about what is life, what is the meaning of life? Would be nice to know, huh? Yeah, sitting around an Aboriginal campfire and having this same discussion.
Yeah, I want to tell you about something I found out, because you're talking about history there, and we're in a stage now where we're making a significant impact in history as a species during this pandemic time, because in 100 years from now they'll write about what happened in 2020, right?
Yep.
And what I've done recently is I've spent a bit of time going back through historical stuff, because I think a lot of history that we know of today is actually a lie, and I think a lot of history has been created by mankind to paint a picture of the way that certain people want to see it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example. I was doing a study the other day about world maps, okay? And I don't know how many people out there go and research world maps, but it's quite an interesting thing, because if you go back a couple of hundred years, you'll find that if you have a look at a map of the world from, say, 1730 or 1740, you'll find that there's no Great Lakes on any world maps. And you'll find that there's not a lot of islands in certain areas that exist today on world maps.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at world maps over the centuries, you'll find there's been a great evolution of how the world actually looks through people's eyes, and obviously exploration and all the rest of it. But when you consider that the Great Lakes were omitted from world maps up until around 1750 something, one has to ask the question, what happened before then, right, was this huge body of water that we know of today that's, in North America. Did it exist? Didn't exist? Why wasn't it put on maps? And I've seen several maps now from that time period, and Chicago's a landlocked city in the middle of North America. Like, there's no water anywhere near it.
Wow.
And those sorts of things I find really interesting, because haven't heard many people talking about that kind of stuff, right? About history and how the planet and our interpretation of the planet has evolved. I kind of get the whole life thing down at the moment to I just think life is energy. I think there's just this, whether it be in the form of a human being or whether it be in the form of an animal or life as trees or whatever, I think it's just all energy, right? We've got this great energy sources happening, and as we know, when the human life comes to an end, well, the question is, does it? Right?
Yeah.
That's another. Yep.
The question is, does it? And in what shape and form does that energy that's existing in the body at that time? And I was fascinated to watch some stuff the other day about an Indian guru who was talking about when we die, our bodies are still emitting energy up to 14 days afterwards. Did you know that?
Wow.
Interesting.
No.
Is that in the yogic faith?
Yeah.
Yogic tradition?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as you're probably aware, and a lot of people listening have probably encountered this situation, that when someone's been clinically assessed as being dead, their heart has stopped and their pulse has stopped as a result.
Yes.
But we've quite often see that people's fingers or toes will twitch or something a number of hours after they've been clinically proven to be dead, right? And the yogis say in this case that this is because of the energy that's still going through the chakras in the body, and that this continues for quite a period of time, and that's why they actually cremate bodies as soon as they can, because they're actually trying to put that life out for whatever reason. I don't know why they're doing that, but as we know, in some cultures also they have bodies laying in state for a long time, right?
Yep.
And allowing people to come and have a wake and all the rest of it, which in some cultures I believe is the reason to allow this energy to emit itself after 14 days before they actually either cremate or bury the body.
Yep.
So I found that quite interesting, right?
Yeah, some interesting thoughts culturally around the world when it comes to this. You start reading information that the Tibetans their cultural beliefs around dying and death is very interesting, kind of along similar types of lines of allowing the energy, spirit, call it like whatever you may, to leave the body, to leave the physical body, I should say.
Yeah. So I kind of just categorize life as energy. I think that regardless of what species we are and how it's engaging on the planet that we live on, that it doesn't even need to be on the planet, right? So we're now starting to explore other places, and life exists there in all sorts of different dimensions, right?
And if we want to go down that path of it all just being energy, then our universe is full of this stuff.
I'm quite fascinated by that stuff at the moment, I must admit. I don't know where you guys sit on it, but I'm just I'm in awe of a guy called Elon Musk. I just think what the guy's doing for our species is just phenomenal, and no one told him there's a pandemic on, by the way, right?
Yeah, bring on these big thinkers, eh? Like,
yeah.
This is what our world needs, and Sophie and I, we've talked about this many times, and just our education system needs to find a way to support
big thinkers,
people who are going to make huge, radical, big scale changes to humanity for the better.
But at the moment our school systems seem to squash that out of kids.
Yeah, well, I think it starts in the school system, but I don't see it getting any better once kids leave school, because you've probably got your own experiences that you can share with me. I'd like to hear your view on this, but I think in terms of, I've worked in company environments, and I would also say that even being in my home family environment, there were restrictions put on me in my thinking process, and I remember quite often that I was ridiculed and told that, that idea is ridiculous, and whether it be by a parent or whether it be by a boss at work or whatever. And I just think it's something that goes through life. Like I think I definitely agree with you in terms of the school system, but I think it's systemic in the rest of our society as well, that anybody that seems to have a big idea, and that's why I love Elon Musk so much, because he just doesn't care about the naysayers whatsoever, and he's got a vision, and he's doing and he's showing, and he's not just a talker, he's a doer. And he's showing what it can be like to transform our species. Like, that's incredible, right? Really incredible.
Amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing, and this is again, we go back to history. This is something that has proliferated through the eons. Of anyone who has a big idea about something that's revolutionary. You name the big physics thinkers, the science thinkers, in whatever field, they all got shut down at one point in time until, typically after they'd passed away, the humanity realized they were actually correct, and what they were saying actually made a lot of sense.
Well, a lot of them were looked upon as sorcerers,
Absolutely, yeah.
And magicians, and a lot of them were actually put to the sword because they were seemed to be evil. So, you're right. Once they had gone, people realised that they were genius and that they had substance and all the rest of it. And you know what? To a large degree today, we may not be killing people like that, but we're actually doing the same sort of thing in terms of suppressing them and making sure that some of those ideas. Like I remember a story a long time ago. I used to live in Perth in Australia many, many years ago. And there was a guy at the time who was developing the orbital engine. His name was Ralph Sarich. Have you ever heard of that guy's name?
Ralph Sarich, no.
So, and I'm talking back in the 1980s, this would have been.
Okay.
And he was working in his garage at home like all inventors do. I think it's a unique story in the inventor's book. They work in their garage, right?
Universal.
Yeah.
Yeah, HP was started in a garage. So, this guy was working in his garage, and he developed an engine for a car that was about the size of your microwave oven. Right? And it didn't run on petrol. Okay? And he had the ability to create this engine that had as much horsepower as a car that we have today, and could go much, much further. So as soon as the oil companies found out about Ralph, they came in and started all the lawsuits and tried to take the guy out of business, right?
Yeah.
And I was only reading it probably, 4 or 5 years ago, that the story was still going on. So it's been going on, this court battle and legal battle has been going on for like 30 years or something. Ridiculous.
Wow.
Right? And trying to keep this guy from, I don't even know if he's still alive. Somebody will probably write in and tell me I'm an idiot and I got all my facts wrong. But but I just wanted to showcase that there was a guy who, back in the day, right, he was having this incredible vision on where he could take the car, the automobile that we use every single day, and make it much more efficient and all the rest of it. So he was kind of the Tesla, Elon Musk guy of his time, right?
Yeah. But he got crushed.
But he got crushed, and it never saw the light of day. And he could have been the guy that revolutionized automobiles across the world. And how many of those are there out there? That's what makes me sick, right? Is how many people out there that have got all those brilliant ideas that just not able to get them to market?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
brilliant ideas and brilliant minds, and yet society isn't open to them, and there's not space for them to voice it or verbalize it or test it out without being ridiculed, like you say. And it's such a shame. Like, we really need to harness these people. They're incredible.
And especially at this point in time, this is how pertinent to this moment that we talk about this. That these people have been forced to sit in their homes for months on end. Imagine what's going on around the globe.
Yeah, with ideas.
The thoughts, the ideas,
I just said to a friend last night, I said, imagine how many books have been written at the moment.
Yeah. Like,
right?
I just know what's been going on in our two little heads over the last couple of months. And we certainly haven't been devising new new theories of physics, but
quantum mechanics.
Yeah, we certainly haven't gone to that path. But there's been a lot going on. Yeah.
So why don't you go to the Tasmanian government and say that you want to bring all the inventors from around the world to Tasmania to set up a hub of innovation and and keep them all in Tasmania and protect them and look after them and feed them good milk and butter and cheese and all the rest of it, and there you go, bang, you've got the centre of the universe in Tasmania.
That'd be
exactly.
awesome.
Well, I don't understand why governments are not just rounding up these people and treating them like kings and queens. Yep.
Well, it is an interesting model though when it does happen, because look at Silicon Valley in America, right?
That's exactly what that made me think of. Yeah. Yeah.
So you've got a situation where it's all driven by money though, and it's all driven by, ego in terms of making something like a Facebook or and let's face it, it's a trendy thing. I remember going to Silicon Valley back in the day, and there were what I would classify as true inventors there then. It wasn't built on the principles of what it is today. And now you've got all these cities around the world that want to compete on the world stage, creating their own versions of Silicon Valley.
Yep. It's been the model. It's now the model, yes.
And I'm used to the day where the guy down the cowshed got in the back of his cowshed for a couple of hours and started banging on it with a hammer and something else to create something more innovative for his cowshed, right? And
exactly.
Anyway, Sophie, you're a Kiwi. You got to stick up for your homeland here, Sophie.
I hear you through and through, absolutely.
Oh, we've got them here in Tasmania as well.
Absolutely. There's some great workshops and sheds.
It's kind of ironic. We've been in a couple lately, and
amazing,
mesmerising. Yes,
isn't it? And it's getting back to basics, right? It's getting back to the. And there's something really energizing about that, don't you find? There's something really, really good about taking something raw and doing it with your hands and making it possible.
Absolutely, and the imagination of the mind, and then being able to turn that into a physical whatever it might be. It's incredible.
Yeah, so I just hope we're not losing those skills, Mark. It worries me sometimes when I see some of these old timers who could just conjure up any piece of device you may desire from some bits of scrap lying around a workshop. Do people in our generations, can they still do that? I don't know.
No, I haven't seen a lot of them, although I won't say no, but I can't say that I know a lot of them or where that's happening. They're hiding pretty well, I guess. That seems to be the thing. Yep. So who inspires you guys? When you look at the global stage, are there names out there that you can throw out of people that really inspire you at a global inventing level and decision-making level?
To be honest, we don't have our finger on the pulse of global affairs and press. That's part of our design, I guess. We just we kind of roll through life and block that noise out.
Yeah.
And part of there's some huge benefits for that we just can focus on what it is that's important to us. The downside to it is that
we miss out on something.
Sometimes we miss out on some aspects of that, and that's one of those parts is being inspired by people in the global sense. I think we tend to get more inspired by people close to us or people we just happen to see or have a conversation with who share something with us. It's those kind of more day-to-day actions that we seem to get more and more inspired by.
Yeah, that's cool. I wanted to talk to you a bit about that today, and we don't have to specifically go into the Antarctic story, but I wanted to talk to you about, you're a couple that live a lot of your time off grid, so to speak, yeah?
Yeah,
exactly.
And you like being out there in the world, wherever that might take you, and I have a real connection to that because I had a journey of my own a few years ago where I basically did that as well, and I did it for 18 months solid. And I've never had that experience again in my life, and it's got me to the stage now where I'm really starting to get to the stage where I want to quit it all and go back to that place. So I'm talking about things like social media and having having a complete withdrawal and redraw, I call it a redraw of, what that picture of life looks like without the white noise around. Talk to me about that stuff, because I know you guys are really passionate about your, off-grid lifestyle and how that impacts you.
Absolutely. This has been I would say the longest time we have been so connected to what people know as civilization. In fact, so you and I have been together nearly 9 years, and just a couple of weeks ago we finally have a phone each. Up until just a few weeks ago we had one phone between us, and that sucks. And for most of the 9 years it never had a SIM card or a phone number. It was really just an alarm clock and a music player and an internet device. But and we, like this where we are now, this is not uncomfortable, but it's for sure not where we find ourselves often or where we thrive normally either. And so it's been really interesting. And social media, it's so funny you say that. I actually, just before this, had a meeting with a young 20-year-old woman. She's trying to help me as I start a new business, and she's trying to help me understand social media, because I live in the stone age of that. Like, I live under a rock and I have no idea about an Instagram account. And it was probably 3 weeks ago that I last opened my Instagram account, and she nearly fell off her seat when I told her that. She said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, last time I met you 3 weeks ago and you talked me through some Instagram stuff, that was the last time I opened it." And she nearly fell off her seat.
So how do you feel about being sucked into that world, though?
I'm okay with it so long as it's consciously sucked in. Like, we're very aware, especially now that we're in this realm of civilization, and it's so easy to get swept away in it, just in the pace of life and the bings and the alarms and the bells and the whistles. And we check in with each other almost daily. Like, yep, we're here, we're doing this is our plan, we're okay. We're so conscious, we don't want to get onto that hamster wheel and get running and lose sight of our exit strategy out of it, I guess. And so, yeah, we're in it, and that's okay. We've got to embrace it, because there are some amazing things that come from being connected and being in civilization and social media. There's some huge leveraging power and amazing things, but at the same time, yeah,
it's that word conscious, and I think
you nailed on that the other day on your video online.
You've spoken about that recently, Mark, yourself, and I really think that's the key. I think it's being conscious of where you are, what we're doing. We have a game plan that hopefully won't leave us in this realm of being tied to social media for a living, for survival. I don't think that's healthy for us. Certainly, not sure it's healthy for anyone, but certainly not for us. It's not healthy, and so we just have to be conscious of it, like Sophie said.
The conversation around consciousness is a really interesting one, because it's funny that you're intrinsically talking about going one way towards social media. I'm talking about going the other way, and there is a notion in my head and a desire, and I guess some egotistical behavior going on, that says, hey, I'm going to grow a global business that I'm doing at the moment, and I'm going to do it without social media. There's kind of that thought in my head at the moment. To say that I'm a firm believer in business, that if you've got something that people want, then they will find you.
Yep.
And there's a lot of history, even though we've talked about history being a lie today. There's a lot of history to suggest that when people find something that they love, they stick to it. And I was talking to a friend about this morning. I just said to them, take music as an example, right? Look at the global following that people like Michael Jackson and Queen and all these major, musical icons over the years have had, way before we had social media, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
People found their music, they fell in love with their music, and they stayed with them for decades. Look at people like Elton John, the career that he's had, right?
Yep.
Right? So there's plenty of examples out there that people who have created something, artists in whatever field that they work in, have been exemplary at what they do, and therefore they've had a global following, and they did it without social media.
Yep, it's definitely happened. You're right.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, well, why can't it happen again? And I'm sure it is happening that we just don't know about. Like, I'm sure there's successful organizations and people out there today who are doing massive things without having a presence on social media. I believe that to be the case.
I would love to be there.
And I would love it if you have any listeners, Mark, that would write in and identify what those businesses are, because I'd love to see them as a business model.
We've talked about this also. We really have. Like, in all honesty, we were wondering, like, well, we're talking about starting these businesses and we have these ideas, and we talk about how much we dislike personally being involved in social media. We suck at it.
But is it possible, in this world we live in now to have global business and commercial business that's successful, that doesn't need social media to support it, to prop it up?
Well, I think it is, for the main fact. If we use the analogy of housing, okay, if you look back all the years, everybody said, the dream in life was to buy your quarter-acre section and stick a house on it and have a mortgage for 40 years and work at the same job until you die. And yeah, you hear what I'm saying, right? But this was the belief system, right? This was the belief system that a major part of the global population hung on to for many, many years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then what happened? The tiny house movement came along, and people said, hang on, you can live in a quarter of the space, you can live off-grid, you can even make them mobile and take it around the country if you want to. And there's amazing tiny house communities and organizations and movements all over the world now. And it's become a real thing. And, as you guys know, I'm sitting on my sailboat, which is my home, which is a tiny house on water.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly.
And I'm having as good a life, if not better, than I've ever lived when I've been on land and in a bricks and mortar environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I guess, throwing up the curveball to anything that we do in life, whether it be starting a business and doing it without social media, or the way that we live, and you guys are proponents of this, you go off and you get in a kayak and go around the bloody Antarctica, for God's sake. Like, really, like we're only limited by our beliefs, right? And if we believe that social media is important, that we have to have it, I'll give you a really interesting statistic from my podcast show, okay? So every time I do a podcast show, I post the show on social media, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, okay? And the amount of engagement I get from that, and it may be because I suck at social media, that's probably the reason, but the amount of engagement I get from that is absolutely negligible, right? And you would have no idea from that how many people are actually listening to my show across the world. So on that basis alone, I can categorically say to you that 98% of my listeners across the world are not finding me on social media.
Wow.
Interesting.
I had no idea.
So there you go. So there's a little bit of proof in my gumption here to say that I can do it without social media. But what I'm saying is, again, if you've got whatever it is you're creating, right, in your business, if people want it and they come across it, and I know there's going to be people sitting out there and saying, yeah, but they won't come across it if you're not on social media. Well, hang on a minute. All those people I just spoke about in terms of music, they never had social media to promote their music back in the day, right? Yeah. And everybody around the planet got to hear about their music, right?
Yeah, no, I agree, Mark. There's still, regardless of society, of technology, there's still this thing called word of mouth.
And it's super powerful.
It's pretty powerful.
Well, that's the number one method at the moment that I'm growing my podcast shows, is word of mouth, right?
Yeah.
And I did a really interesting exercise. I'm going to bore you with this, but I'm just trying to prove a point. But I proved this to myself because a few months ago I decided that I take my little dog out for a run every morning, and we go to the place where everybody else takes their dogs out for a run.
Yes.
And I said, right, I'm going to stop every person and give them one of my business cards about my podcast show and say, here, listen to this, and then tell 2 more people about it. And I thought, if I do that every day, I've got 365 plus 2, I've got 700 plus new listeners to my show, right? If I'm successful in that strategy. And just by doing that alone, I saw a massive spike in my show numbers just from doing that little exercise, right?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Because those people not only went home curious just to find out what the show's about, right? They got online, and whether they liked it or not, they obviously told somebody else in their family. And away you go. So from just walking my dog, I can get close to 1,000 new listeners a year listening to my podcast show.
Excellent.
Yeah. So now my dog's the best exercise dog in Australia. He's out 3 times a day. No, I'm just joking.
Good job, Oscar. Oscar's paying for himself.
Good
I
one,
like
Oscar.
it. Paying his board.
As he's laying next to me snoring right now.
My work's done for the day.
But yeah, I think in terms, and I guess I wanted to share this with you because you're heading into a new business venture and doing all these sorts of things, and I think in terms of the more we think outside the box in terms of how we can get people to interact with our business brands and how they can actually come across to you. Like I was talking to a lady yesterday on one of my business shows, and we were talking about collaboration, and she, her and I were talking about it, and she said, I've never collaborated before. And I said, well, you're missing out on something, it's a big thing. And she said, well, I don't understand it. And I thought, wow, there's probably a lot of people out there who don't understand the opportunities that exist with collaboration, right?
It's a scary concept to a lot of people.
Yeah, and I gave her the example that I used to work on back in the corporate day. Was I used to work in the aerospace industry for DHL, and I worked with Boeing and Airbus, and a lot of people don't know, but there's 5,000 companies collaborating to make a plane, right?
Yeah, wow.
5,000 companies to make one aircraft, right? And it's one of the most, technologically advanced pieces of equipment we have in the world. It's something we use every day. Millions and millions of people rely on it, as we've just found out in the last few months. And it has one of the highest safety level records of anything that's been made by human beings, right? So think about it, when you've got 5,000 different suppliers coming in to make an aircraft that we all, hop on without thinking twice about that it's going to fall out of the sky. And what are the logistics involved in making that come to fruition? Yeah?
Huge. Wow.
Yeah. So the reason I wanted to share this is because often what we do when we start a business and we've got an idea is that we keep it insular to ourselves because it's our little baby. We don't want to share it with too many people. We don't want too many people to get involved because it's all driven by our egos that it's going to be our big thing that we're going to take to the world. But the reality is, the more people you can get involved and the more freer you are. Someone said to me in Singapore when I was living there, but aren't you going to patent your idea that you've just come up? I said, why? They said, well, someone else will steal it. I said, yeah, but no one will ever do it exactly the same as I'm doing it, right?
Yeah.
And no one ever will. No one will ever copy your idea like for like. And, staying with the plane story, the Chinese have actually, this is an interesting one, the Chinese actually stole an Airbus aircraft and they stripped it down and they copied all the parts. And they're now making their own aircraft that's exactly the same as the Airbus A320. But you know what? It's not exactly the same, because it's made in China, right? And it's different than what the French and German and English consortium that came together to build the Airbus aircraft. It's different, and the outtake of it will be different. So, absolutely. Yeah, collaboration is a big thing, and again, it's another channel that you can use to grow a business, to start a business, and to sustain a business. It's just what are your thoughts around that? Are you big collaborators? Like, are you involving other people in your life journey?
Yeah, trying.
We are, actually.
We are. And it's funny because there's definitely been some ingrained, traits, I guess, in the brain over years of, because like you say, that could be scary, or that could be potential, missed opportunity, or as well as, if I tell someone and then it fails and then I'm failing. And so you're trying to combat and overcome these thoughts as well. But especially in the kind of endeavors that we are launching into at the moment, I'm practicing over and over again in my head each day. I'm like, oh, there's someone, I'm doing a competitor analysis online and I'm seeing, oh, there's someone kind of doing something like we're doing. And about a month ago, I would be really mad. And now I'm like, no, that's great, because what we're doing is trying to achieve something good, and that means they're trying to achieve something good, and we could all do it together, and that's an even better outcome. And so I'm trying to turn it into that. And also like utilizing people's strengths who in our life, people want to help, people want to succeed, people want to be a part of you or be valued in what their strengths are. And so let's use that, let's embrace that, and we're trying to incorporate in that sense, collaborate in that sense.
Well, let's go back to the conscious living thing, because it's all intertwined as far as I'm concerned. Like that whole story you just told then, Sophie, in terms of looking at competitors and what they're doing and stuff, and how you react to that. That's what we're really talking about here. Is, do you see it as a positive or do you see it as a threat? And if I'm putting my living consciously hat on, I would bring up the word trust. And I think trusting ourselves, right, is one of the most important things that we can do. And it's where a lot of fear lives for people, because self-belief in a lot of people is, if you've been living most of your life traveling the world and going to Antarctica and doing things, and then all of a sudden you're put in Tasmania and onto Instagram and you've got to deal with this, your self-belief is, and I say this in an endearing way to you, Sophie, but
absolutely.
I guess in terms of your self-belief in your ability in that particular process in the beginning is very limited, because you don't have a lot of exposure to it and you're reliant on other people giving you the right information to be able to be successful in that area.
Yeah, correct.
So one of the things that I've tried to do, I'll take away the word try. What I have been doing in my life of recent times is to trusting myself more.
Yes.
In everything that I do. I trust myself that I can lose weight. I trust myself that I'll meditate every day. I'll trust myself that I'll eat properly every day. And all of these things have such huge benefits attached to it if I can trust myself to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result of that, I bring on this whole self-accountability thing, and I'm not blaming other people and I'm not looking for excuses.
Yeah, spot on. Absolutely.
Yeah, that idea of blame, Mark, is powerful. Huh? When it can go into a dark hole. That idea of blaming, and when you kind of take that out of the equation, and it just comes back to you. I find life's much easier when you just look internally for solutions rather than look for the whys of why you feel like you feel, or why is that emotion at the moment, rather than instantly going towards blame. It doesn't take you anywhere. It might feel good for a minute, but that's about it, and then it's a dark hole.
I think what you just said as well, in terms of the acknowledgement of emotions, I think that's really important, right? Like, we are human beings, we're not robots, and we've seen that throughout this COVID-19 situation, that everybody reacts to it in a different way. Everybody's got their spin on it. Everybody's got their feelings associated with how they're coping with it. And some people are being overt about that. Others are being very introverted about it.
Yeah.
But I think that whole notion of feeling is such an important aspect to life. Maybe getting back to our conversation about life, maybe life is about a feeling, right? It's a feeling, and multiple feelings that exist throughout the whole journey, right? We have feelings.
Possibly.
It's funny, when we're born, right, we come out as this little baby that has no idea what's going on around it, and yet the baby has feelings, right?
Yep. Although I feel like the baby has so much more of an idea of what's going on than what these
adults do.
Exactly. Yeah, honestly, like these brains that have been swayed and skewed and shaped externally.
Yeah.
Whereas the baby is genuine.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point.
It is what it is. Like, there is nothing else. And it's always kind of fascinated me, observing kids growing up and seeing this beautiful, what's the word? Just
beautiful one, and a soul.
Innocence, yes. It's the soul and the genuine and the innocence. And then at what point it all changes, and all of a sudden there's the external everything kind of comes in, and you're like, no, go back to the genuine innocent.
Yeah, exactly. Wish we could all be kids again, right?
Yes.
Imagine if we took all those layers, peeled all those layers off and just got back. I think, you've been practicing meditation, Mark. I think one of my meditation teachers spoke about that as in meditation, the practice was peeling. The process of meditation is really just stripping back all those layers and going back to that innocence that Sophie talked about as a baby. That essence we have in us all, we've just built up all this crap
layers around it
around us that we don't even know who that being, what that being is anymore.
When you were talking about the baby thing, and then I was going to say that I've learned so much from Oscar about living in the now and being present and getting away of all that stuff you were just talking about, stripping back all those layers, that you were just talking about, because he gets up in the morning, as long as he's fed and taken for a run, and he knows he's going to have dinner at night, he's as happy as Larry, right? Like, he's got no other expectation at all, right? Nothing. And he's got a big smile on his face every day. He's happy. He's not influenced by any form of stress whatsoever. As long as he's going to get that meal at night and in the morning and a walk every now and again. I look at him, I think, that's it. That's the essence of life, right? To live that simply.
Yes. Yeah.
We overcomplicate it all, right? In every area.
Oh. Yeah.
So are there things that you guys consciously focus on to strip away? Like, are there things that, whether it be from a material, I know you're not materialistic people, but are there things that you kind of say, right, we don't need to have this in our life anymore, it can be gone? Like, are you constantly on the road of that path?
Yeah, we made, I mentioned it before, but one of those things we mentioned was the media. We actively go out of our way to avoid it.
Yep.
We don't need it. It's not constructive for us.
Yeah.
And so we've left it behind. We're working on a platform recently of not so much stripping people away, but really surrounding ourselves by good influences, by people who build us up, who make us into better human beings. So I guess on the flip side of what you just asked, we try and actively pursue quiet time in the wilderness.
Yep.
And sometimes we have to go for extended periods, such as now, where we don't have that opportunity. But that's really powerful for us. We've seen that in the past when we have those times.
So what does nature mean to you two? Like, you spend a lot of time in nature. What does nature kind of, if you can articulate it in a few sentences, what would you say nature means to your life?
It's that what we just talked about, Mark. It's that it strips back those layers so profoundly, so quickly.
I could sum it up in one word. It means everything to me.
Yeah.
It's so raw and real and beautiful and peaceful and uncluttered.
Yep.
It's simple. There's nothing. There's no expectation from it. There's no. Yeah, I don't know. It's just, I feel like just to exist in that wilderness space is.
It's everything we just talked about.
There we go.
So when you talk about young people in particular, Sophie, in schools and that, do you think schools should be making an effort to get kids in nature more and having programs associated with getting them into the environment?
100%. 150%. Yeah, absolutely. And we've done a few school visits, which has been really cool, associated with our Antarctic expedition and our film.
Yep.
And it has been really fun from all ages, from real littlies through to teenagers. And it's been really interesting, their engagement and their response or reaction to it and to us. And it's cool. Hopefully it's planted a seed in someone's mind somewhere to go out and engage with nature and the wilderness space and protect it, learn to love it.
One of our projects, actually, Mark, is a collaboration to try and enter into this realm, actually. This very sphere of influencing young people, school kids, and bringing what we've found as the benefits, the virtues of enjoying and spending time in the wilderness, trying to bring that to young people, through our endeavours, through our adventures, through our expeditions, and through hopefully other people's expeditions and adventures who feel similarly, and trying to bring that to school kids, because so many people, young kids, or people in general, just have more and more are lacking that exposure.
Yeah, little to no exposure, and not through any fault of their own. It's just the way that things have been shaped there for them so far. And I think a really key takeaway is that, well, that's okay, you know, especially as a young child or a young adult, you may not have had much say in certain things so far in your life, but from now on you start to get choices and decisions, and those decisions will really impact how things move forward. And I think that's been a big part of what we've been trying to express as well. And I guess through, like Ewan said, the personal experience, what we've seen and how it affects us. And I've been an outdoor educator for many years, and have great memories of seeing how it positively affects others, many kids and adults, both actually, adults as well, taking them into wilderness spaces, and seeing the benefits that come from that. And I think it's so important that kids are exposed to it.
I go back to when I first met you two, and we were having a chat, and then you told me about starting a business and stuff, and I immediately went to the concept of outward bound, that type of thing. I don't think there'd be two people on the planet that would be better than you two in running an outward bound type of environment for young people to go and immerse themselves in that. But I think you bring on a good point about the adult side of it as well, because, you know, we tend to think we can nurture and change the social conscious thinking and behaviour of young people, to which we can to a certain extent. But there's also a great need, I think, across the adult community of the world, where, take the corporate world for an example, where people to a very large extent have got onto that hamster wheel and they've lost themselves.
Yep.
You know, they've just become, life has become something of another dimension, right? And getting those people out into nature and giving them the breath back into life, I would call it, you know, opening the door again to themselves through that experience. Is that something that you guys are thinking about? Or?
No, it's not, but we are now.
Totally agree, but we hadn't thought of it in terms of business
but that's
focus,
it.
but...
You nailed it in those few words, Mark. It's and that's what you asked about before, is breathing that life back into people, breathing that energy back into them, and that's what nature does it so simply, just by existing in it, just by being there. You don't even have to do anything. Just exist, and it does it to us. It's a powerful thing.
It kind of, nature provides us with such an amazing stadium or venue, doesn't it? Like, it's just incredible. Like, I spend many a night on the boat here looking at the sunset, and I've got a spectacular position where I can see the sun going down every night, and Oscar sits next to me like a human being, and we both look at the sunset together, and it's kind of one of those moments, you know, like But it is, and I always, whenever I post a photo online of it or whatever and share it with the world, I always say, here we go, you know, nature providing us with a free dance again, right? It's just incredible, and so much can be taken out of that moment as well, in terms of what you feel about life and all the things that we've been talking about for the last hour. It can be culminated in just an experience as simple as that, where you don't have to spend a cent, you don't have to cross the road, you don't have to go to a shopping mall. Right, you don't have to drive anywhere. And I hope, like you've said today, I hope that this whole COVID-19 experience is bringing people back to basics and back to nature, because it would be such an advantage for the planet if people got reconnected again.
Wouldn't it ever? Wouldn't it be an incredible society if we all started to reconnect with nature? Well, we'd certainly would help our would help our ways with climate change very quickly. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So, regarding your business, did you want to talk about what you're doing? Did you want to share with the audience what you're thinking of doing? Or I don't want to put you on the spot, but
we'll be here for a few days. But
well, you go.
A number of projects, but one of them is to use that notion we were talking about before of inspiring and opening opportunities for young people into the outdoors through this connection of exploration, of wilderness, through expedition. We feel that we're in a position, and we can offer things to the education system that the education system doesn't currently have, and that's content that is real world, real life expedition, and all the amazingness that comes from doing that. And we've been there, we've done it, we hopefully will continue to do it.
And we'd love others to take something from it as well and learn something from it, particularly kids. So
and it's more than just the inspiration, it's the nuts and bolts of it as well. There's huge things to learn about just the logistics, planning, risk management,
risk assessments, environmental assessments, putting it all together, and then the resilience and those kind of themes that come through from doing these expeditions. And
so we feel we've got a platform to jump from. We're working with collaborating. Look at that word, there it is again. With someone else who has a similar kind of take and background to us. And we're looking to move into, especially with COVID, we've seen that in the future, and something schools are going to pick up more on, we believe, that there's really valuable content available to them if they know where to look and if it's in the right format, that schools just simply cannot internally create themselves. They don't have the necessary expertise internally. It's just as like a corporation, reaches out to a third party for expertise in whatever field, marketing, publicity, accounting, legal affairs, because they don't have the expertise in-house to do it. And we feel we have some expertise that could be really beneficial to students, and we want to try and work out a way to share it with them.
So I guess in a nutshell, to summarise it, Mark, is we're looking to try and put a package together of content from our expedition, the Antarctic one, and others, either ours or other people's expeditions or future expeditions. Put this package together to sell it to schools that kind of hit notes within their curriculum, within their themes, through schools, and educate kids this way.
Okay, so can I ask a couple of questions around that?
Oh, go for
ahead.
it.
Okay. Why schools?
Why schools? Because I think it's because we feel that we've both been pretty passionate about outdoor education. It's had a huge influence on the two of us. And we feel that there's the schooling system just doesn't do many subjects justice, but particularly this one, it doesn't seem to do it justice in the sense that it just doesn't give the whole picture. It doesn't allow, and again, I think it's because of this expertise thing. There's outdoor education teachers who are excellent, very, very good. The majority of them are fantastic at outdoor education, but there's aspects of that which, through their job and through their role, they won't have that background or that expertise,
or time,
money, budget, etc. So we feel that we can jump in there and leverage and add to the schooling system, which we're both very passionate about education, and we're passionate about giving young people and showing them those opportunities. But you make a good point, like, why just schools? Well,
we could go corporate.
We could go elsewhere as well. We just felt that a good entry point would be this education system.
No, I wasn't trying to be a smart ass when I asked the question,
No.
but the point was there's a lot of kids who don't go to school that need something like this, right? There's a lot of kids that drop out of school. There's a lot of kids that look for something beyond the education system that's currently failing them when they want to go off and do something incredible in life. And it reminds me of a couple of organisations that I have in my kind of rainbow where they've taken this upon themselves to help kids who are not doing so well at school, who may be dropping out of school and who have lost the spirit of the education system. And they've got corporate backing to go and help these kids because the corporates see the desire to be philanthropic in that area of helping kids that may have not be so privileged, right?
Sure.
And going to school and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's the reason I asked you that specific question, why schools?
No, that's a great idea. That's a great angle.
But what about, so that was the first question I had. The second question I had was, or is, just Australia? Are you looking at Australia only?
No.
No, we're actually looking global.
International schools was something that we thought about.
Looking at all sorts of avenues. And I guess that's something we've kind of analysed, is we're not, whilst I have an Australian passport and we both live in Australia at the moment, we're quite global citizens, and so we're pretty open to look wherever on the planet to find the right opportunities to do this.
Cool. Okay, good. Because I think that's another really important thing. It's like there's, as my guest reminded me this morning, 7.8 billion people on this planet, right?
Man.
And a lot of them under the age of 20. And
Wow.
a lot of them need help in all sorts of different areas. So I'm pleased to hear that. That's the way. Well, listen, I'm going to, as I always want to with you two, I want to help in any way I can. So if there's anything that I can do to help this collaboration come to fruition in any way.
Fantastic. Thanks, Mark.
And also, even though we didn't come on this conversation to have a business chat, I'm glad it's turned into that, because people will be inspired by what you want to do. So if you're listening to the show today and you want to help Ewan and Sophie, never fear, because I'm going to put their contact details if they allow me, because they may not want to contact people.
But, they are collaborators.
Our contacts are there and open.
Okay, so
Get in touch.
I'll make sure that I include everything in the show notes where you can get in contact with Ewan and Sophie if you want to help young people around the world through adventure experiences. Is that what we're calling it? Adventurous experiences? Or
Sure.
We're not sure what we're calling it yet, Mark.
Expedition and adventure. Yeah.
So what's the next, let's talk about you two more, but what's the next expedition or adventure for you two? When that travel curtain gets lifted, where are you going to be heading off to?
Oh, honestly, I don't think we've really thought about planning another expedition or adventure. Our kind of new adventure is different. It's into business or businesses. So that was one idea, but that's kind of an adventure for us. This is us stepping out into unknown territory, is into business, which doesn't mean we're tied to one spot. We were very conscious around that decision in choosing our business opportunities. Probably back to Alaska, to our van. We've got a van with all the toys, bikes and boats.
Oh, fantastic.
And climbing gear, and it's stuck in Alaska, so we need to get back there.
Yeah.
Whereabouts in Alaska is it?
It's in southeast in Haines.
Okay, Haines, Alaska. Yes. What a magnificent part of the world.
Such a great place.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know, but I think, to be honest with you, Mark, the longer we get kind of cooped up due to COVID and due to pursuing this other adventure that Sophie mentioned, I think the stronger and will be the pull to actually get out and do a proper adventure, proper mission in the wilderness somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Kamchatka has been a word on the street for a while.
Yeah, Kamchatka Peninsula. So
Kamchatka. Where else?
Yeah.
Where are some other places we want to go?
Ooh.
Lots.
Yeah.
The world is never ending, right?
It's
like it's never ending in
totally.
terms of the.
Incredible.
I don't care whoever comes on my travel show and talks about how many countries they've been to. I said, yeah, but you haven't been here yet. And you haven't been there yet, right? So, there's another corner, another border, another passport stamp. There's everything to see and do out there, isn't there?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of this whole how many countries you go to type thing. It means nothing when you've just been in one city for a week or something. You haven't been to the country.
Or seen a boardroom, seen a boardroom and then left and got on a plane to fly home again.
it means nothing. Yeah, and I lived in Tasmania for 20 years of my life, and my word, this is a pretty small island, really. Wow, there's all sorts of places here I haven't ventured.
Yeah, I bet. Have you caught up with? There's a great. Do you guys get on YouTube at all and watch inspirational videos and stuff?
Not a lot, to be
I
honest.
don't have time.
When we see a great recommendation come past our face, we do, but we don't
I'll tell you
spend
one.
time there searching. Yes, please.
I'll tell you one, because you'll love this guy. Well, there are a couple actually, and they remind me of you too, because they're just spitting image. And I think he's from Tasmania actually.
Oh.
So get onto YouTube and Google free range sailing.
All right.
Okay.
I like the sound of it already.
And these two are a fantastic couple, and they're sailing around Australia in about a 24-foot boat or something ridiculously small.
Oh.
And they're completely off-grid, and you might even run into them because they're in Tasmania at the moment. They've been there for a month or so, or a couple of months.
Oh, cool.
Right.
We'll look them up. We'll go and try and find them.
They are fantastic. You guys will love them, yeah? And they put out some really great videos about, how they're just living off-grid and enjoying the wonderful Australian coastline and, hair-raising moments here and there. But
excellent.
check it out, because you'll absolutely
Super.
love it. Free-range sailing.
Stuff.
I'm giving you a plug, guys, if you're listening today. Free-range
Great.
sailing.
The free range sailors.
Awesome.
So there you go.
Good stuff.
One thing I wanted to ask you before we start to get to the end of the show is,
Yes.
how's this time back in humanity and society? How's that changed you both physiologically? Have you seen any terrible things happening to you because you're back in society again, or?
Well, I think it's probably gone the other way. We actually worked really hard in this period to improve our health in many ways. One thing that we have found due to our lifestyle is accessing really kind of good health professionals. When I say good, I mean well recommended, who share same kind of philosophies, and who we can interact with, repeatedly over a period is really difficult when you're
On the move so much.
when you're a global nomad.
Yeah.
And so we kind of saw this as an opportunity to have a little reprieve from that, and actually get on top of some health issues that have kind of plagued us for a long time, because we haven't had the opportunity to. So we're actually going the other way. I think. Yeah.
I've found it tough though.
I'm interested to know from you guys though, in terms of how you kind of look at that well-being trajectory. Like, do you ever get to a stage where you say you're contented with your health the way it is, or do you always continuously look for improvement in different areas?
No, I would say that's ongoing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to think there'd be a day where I could get to a point and say, yeah, I'm really content with my health, but I think the old age will catch up with me and prevent that. Hopefully not, but I think it's an ongoing exercise. I think there's always things you can tweak and improve, and as we learn more through medicine and modern medicine research, I think we'll just continue to evolve down that path.
So, okay, that's interesting, because you two strike me to be fairly conscious living human beings. And have you spent any time with monks at all, Ewan?
Not in.
Directly.
I've been around them in different meditation retreats and things of schools I've been to. I haven't specifically gone to or sought out a monastery as a place of healing or meditation or anything.
Yeah, I guess what I'm about to say doesn't have any reference to actually having to spend too much time with monks, but I guess the belief and the philosophy behind what I'm going to say is more directed to what their philosophy is, in terms of, I spent some time with monks in Cambodia, living with them for a little bit, and I'm talking about
Buddhist monks,
for short periods of time. I'm not talking about extended stays.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I got out of that I still hold dearly to today is the notion of just being. And as humans that live in this fast-paced Western society, we're always looking for continuous improvement in everything that we do, right? So my question around that to you was, do we get to a stage of our well-being, whether it be our nutritional plan, our meditation, our exercise, and all the rest of it, do we continuously look at tampering with that, trying to improve it, or do we get to a stage where we say, oh, you know what, I'm actually contented right now. This is contentment as far as I'm concerned, and I don't need to keep pushing on. What are your thoughts around that?
I think it's a balance between those two things. I think it's you can get to a point for now where you are in your life with your body at this age and these things going on, and this is working well. And then in a year or two's time, it will be different. So again, that awareness and reassessment, and there'll be new technologies or evolutions come along that tell us something new, and we're like, hey, look, actually, this could be really beneficial for me. I'm happy to introduce this into my life or routine or whatever. And but on the flip side, you don't want to be, I don't think, anyway, for me personally, I don't want to be on the other end of the scale where every day I'm, obsessed about the next health supplement or whatever it is. Like, no, that's I don't think that's healthy either. So it's a balance between the two for me.
What about you, Ewan?
Yeah, I think for me, contentment is there's a potential for a slippery slope into complacency, and it's a very I would say it's a very disciplined mind, a very conscious mind that can play that game well, and I think that's why possibly monks can head down that path of contentment certainly at a higher level. I'm not sure they can do it in their younger years. There's some great difficulties there. As you know, it takes many years to master this beast we have in the top of our bodies. Yeah.
Some people call it a brain.
But certainly it's an interesting point, Mark, because I feel like in my meditation practice of late, I've kind of reached this point of contentment. My meditation's terrible. It's not anywhere near where I'd love it to be, but I'm content with it. Yeah.
That's really interesting, because I like what you said before, Sophie, because I've known and I know of people that are almost professional retreat goers. Like they're going to a retreat every weekend to do some kind of spirituality involvement, which I'm not knocking them for that, but I'm thinking, okay, well, if you're going like every weekend to another one, how do you give yourself time to actually be in the space of what you learnt from the last one, to let it evolve and let yourself grow into that before you go rushing and topping up? It's like topping up a bottle of water that's already overflowing at the top, right?
Yeah. I need about a year in between to really solidify and take on and practice and work out what works for me, what I like.
Yeah, I again, this is not a judgment call. It's just an observation. I think in terms, everyone's entitled to do whatever they want, but I'm just thinking, okay, well, what can be the benefit in that? But anyway, hey, let's get the crystal ball out before we say goodbye today. Where are you going to be in a year from now? What's life going to look like in 1 year from now for Sophie and Ewan? Come on, give me the big crystal ball. I'm going to hold you accountable to it as well. So we're going to get you back on the show in 1 year from today and say, right, remember what you said a year ago?
Oh dear, I love these questions, Mark. Imagine if we did this a year ago from now.
Yeah.
Previously.
Yeah.
This would not have been in the crystal ball.
The ball got...
Like the realistic crystal ball, or like the kind of big dream desire crystal ball? Which ball are you looking into, Mark?
Well, if I'm looking into a crystal ball, it's exactly that, right? It's a crystal ball. So
okay.
So it's the big visionary picture. Yep.
We'll probably still be in Tasmania, driving our bus, being aware and conscious and alert. Yeah, like that's metaphorically speaking.
Yeah, that's our metaphor for life. For life.
It's driving a bus.
Yeah, we drive a bus.
Yeah, cool.
And actually, what was it earlier today or yesterday, I said, our bus, it's a big bus. It doesn't have an engine yet, so we're pushing it. And so it's really slow, kind of grinding down the road. But we're driving it nevertheless. And we get to choose where it goes. But I think because of our kind of conscious decisions and our commitments right now, we'll most likely be in Tasmania and hopefully having businesses taking off, putting a lot of effort into them. Ewy's engineering right now, back in the engineering desk.
Yep.
We'll have mountain bikes, we'll be biking, we'll be paddling the coast of Tasmania.
Yep.
That's my crystal ball vision.
Fantastic. Ewan, you're going to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think in a year from now, we'll be beside ourselves. We'll probably, like Sophie said, we'll probably have had a good chunk of time here in Tasmania. And as wonderful it is, I think we will be beside ourselves to
get away.
To not necessarily to leave Tasmania for the sake of leaving Tasmania, but to go and do a big adventure.
Mission.
Yeah,
I think that's what is going to be our nemesis in terms of continuing to drive our bus, like we said, and drive these businesses forward that we want to, and these opportunities we want to push, but at the same time still maintaining that connection with the wilderness that's so important to us.
Well, I tell you what, I'm going to put in my calendar 28 July 2021 podcast show with Ewan and Sophie.
Awesome.
And
touching base.
I know that we're going to be in communication long before then, but I'm going to put it in there for a 12-month check-in, and all the people listening to us today can find out where you two have got with the crystal ball dream that you've just shared with us.
See where the ball's gone.
Yeah. Exactly right.
Wow.
Well, listen, thank you very much for joining me today. It's been a great chat. You've taught me a few things, actually. I'm going to go away and reflect on now as I go for a walk with Oscar and meditate in the park. And I want to thank you for being conscious and aware, and also for giving me your very special commodity, which is called time. And I'm most appreciative of that.
Well, thank you, Mark. We love chatting with you, and we hope that this brings something, sparks an idea in someone's mind, or just...
This is for us. This is a part of this is a beautiful part of collaboration, Mark. And like Sophie said, if there's been lots of little tidbits and little podcasts and things over the years that have
really
helped us, and so if there's anything in here that sparks something for one of your listeners, then fantastic. That's made our day. And please, if anyone wants to reach out to us on any topic that we've talked about, I think our contact details will be posted.
You better stand by. There's going to be a stampede.
Awesome.
Fantastic, Mark.
Thanks again, and we'll speak again soon.
Yeah, thanks.
There we are. The delightful Ewan Blyth and Sophie Ballagh joining me on Conversations with Humanity today. I hope you enjoyed that episode. Plenty more coming from where that came from. And I've got a whole host of guests lined up for the show. Remember to go over to the website, humaneity.com, to check out all the previous episodes. And if you would like to check out our podcasts on travel and business, you can find them also on our YouTube channel, or go to globaltravelchannel.com or theglobalbusinesspodcast.com. Plenty of episodes there. In fact, we've got over 180 episodes of podcasts for you to listen to, and some of them are now in video, so you can watch them. And going forward, all of our shows will be in video format. So there we go. If you love our content, please tell someone about it. It could be a family, a friend, or even a work colleague. We want to get as many people around the world connected to humanity as we possibly can. I've enjoyed bringing you this show today. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to being back again with you very soon. My name's Mark Philpott. Until then, stay safe, stay well, and stay happy.